Let's start this video with a poll. How is this product name pronounced? Is it Movink? Is it Movink? Is it Movink? I'm gonna write to Wacom right now and ask them, and I'm gonna let you know what they say by the end of this video. But I am so glad that this product exists. Wacom's budget tablets haven't really done it for me lately, and their top-of-the-line tablets, while great, have become really expensive. So creating a middle ground that has some nice features for a reasonable $750 that is kind of high, but relatively speaking, a reasonable price is a really nice change of pace. But this isn't just cutting a bunch of features from their Cintiq Pros and releasing it at a lower price. This device is really blazing its own path. It's insanely light, it's really portable, and you're still getting Wacom's best feature, which is their Pro Pen 3. To sum it all up a little early, I really like this. There are some trade-offs and some nitpicks that I have, but if you've been waiting for Wacom to release a really good tablet at a decent price, look no further. All right, so let's start off this review with a project. I need something to draw. I am in the very early stages of drawing a comic. This is page 3. I have to finish these last rows of panels. I've been modeling each scene's background first in Blender, and then I've been using that instead of pencils. So far, so good. This process seems to be working out for me. I find it takes about the same amount of time to render a scene in Blender as it does to do perspective the old-fashioned way, but what's cool about it is I can then turn the scene around for different angles, screen cap the backgrounds, and like plop them into panels, and then I have instant backgrounds for the rest of the scene, and that's a big time saver. All right, so as I start drawing here, let's talk about the tablet. It is thinner than an iPad, and that is one of its greatest features. Other tablets out there are portable, like take this XP Pen Artist 14 for example. It's thin enough to take with you. It only needs one cable to connect it to your laptop, just like this one does. But the Movink's thinness and weight are just a step beyond that. You can slide this into your bag easily and just not really notice it's there. It's got a plastic body, which is a good idea because that one keeps the weight down, but also with the iPads and their aluminum body, once that bends, it is bent, and that is a problem. Whereas this is a little bit more pliable, so if it bends a little bit, that's no problem. There are 2 buttons. There is one on each side. There's also 2 USB Type-C ports that you're going to need to plug it into your laptop or computer, and either one of those works as an input. This does come with a USB Type-C cable, but it's not too long. I'd say it's about a 3-foot long cable. Not quite long enough for me to use with my computer to get it to my desk, but if I was using this with a laptop, like when I was testing it on the Mac, it was no problem. Also on each side are 2 physical buttons. These act as a power button, but they also can act as an express key, and you can go into the settings and these things are customizable. There's also 2 hidden touch spots. What do these do? Those also kind of act as express keys. I'm going to talk about those more in a few minutes because Wacom has done a ton of things with the settings that deserves its own section. Another thing that surprised me is as I was using this for a long period of time is that it straight up does not get hot. And that might be because of the new screen. This is a 1080p OLED 60 Hz display. It's 13 inches and it's got a matte finish on it. It's a very smooth matte coating. This screen looks really good. This is the first drawing tablet that I've seen that has an OLED screen on it. Now Wacom's other screens do look really, really nice, but there's something about an OLED screen that really makes the colors pop, especially like the pure red, the pure green, the pure blue. Even with a matte finish on this, which tends to dull the colors, you can really see those colors pop out. Now that matte screen is very, very smooth. And that's a trend that I've seen in this space lately when it comes to drawing tablets. So there's a trade-off being made here. As you make that matte screen texture smoother, it just looks better. The colors on a matte screen just aren't going to look as good as a glossy screen. So they keep trying to make the matte screen shinier and shinier and shinier and make the colors better and better and better. But the trade-off that you're making here is that there isn't as much grip for the pen. And this matte is very, very smooth, and that pen just doesn't have the kind of grip that I'm used to from other Wacom devices out there. Now to counteract this, there's different nibs. In fact, there's 3 nibs that come in the back of the Pro Pen. Some of them are smoother plastic nibs. Some of these gray ones I think are supposed to be like a felt tip, a more grippier tip. The default tip that's in the Pro Pen 3 that comes with this is a gray tip. Even with that gray tip, I think it's a little too slidey. I wish I had a little more grip on the screen. The viewing angles are pretty good. I do notice when I lay it flat and kind of get back a little bit, I could see it fade, but when it's at a angle for drawing, it looks great. This is also a touch screen, and I'm happy to report the palm recognition is pretty much flawless. I didn't notice any extra dots that were being added to the screen from my palm hitting it. I was not wearing a glove most of the time. I wasn't accidentally selecting the wrong layer. This is something that Wacom has really improved over the last several generations of tablets. And of course, touch lets you use all those gesture controls. So you can pinch and zoom on the screen. You could use 2 fingers to kind of pan around. And again, I'm going to dive into the settings later, but there's a ton of touch settings that you can customize here as well. I thought the touch worked almost as well on Macs as it does on Windows. Now, Windows natively builds in touch, so a lot of displays work well with touch on Windows. On Macs, it's been more hit or miss. In fact, with a Huion tablet I reviewed a few months ago, they just said straight up, no, we're not supporting touch on Macs anymore. It's too much of a pain in the butt. But I found pinching to zooming on a Mac and panning around's a little bit slow. You can tell it's not quite native, but all of the other shortcuts and things like that Wacom has built into their settings for touch work really well. When you take the way they've implemented the touch screen and you take all the settings that they've built for it and put those things together, this is one area where I think Wacom really stands out from the competition. This is a 13-inch display though, so one thing you are going to run into is if you're not using the pen and you're using your finger around Windows's interface is that it can be hard to do things like switch layers or change the brush size. The screen is just really tiny, and that's just a thing that happens as the screen gets smaller. In fact, on Windows, in order to see all of my icons along the left-hand side in Photoshop and like be able to use the color picker and things like that, I did have to change the zoom size of Windows, and that's just something that happens on smaller screens. I'm using a stand that I just had laying around. I didn't try out Wacom's new stand, which is a little folding thing they sell on their website. You can also get a cover for this, so if you are going to be taking it with you and you don't want to get that screen scratch when you slide it into the bag, it's probably not a bad idea. Quick shout out here to today's sponsor, Pork Bun. You know how the link in my Instagram or my Twitter or my YouTube bio goes to bradcolbo.bio? Yeah. Totally makes sense. No brainer. Where did I get that URL? From today's sponsor, Pork Bun. It's short, it's simple, it's easy to remember, and people know exactly what to expect when they click on that link. Pork Bun is one of the most trusted names in domain registrations, and they do so much more. You can pair that .bio domain name with their link in the bio hosting to set up your own page that links to all of your social media accounts. This is great for artists who are not only on like Twitter and Instagram and everything, but maybe you're selling courses or resources or brushes. It was crazy simple to set up. And with every domain name, you get WHOIS privacy, SSL certificates, web, email hosting trials, and more. Why pay for things that should be free? Click on my link down below in the description, and you're going to automatically use the code BioBradC to get your own .bio domain name for less than $6 at Pork Bun. Or just scan the QR code on the screen and get the same deal. Cool? All right. All right, let's deep dive into this pen. Now, the Pro Pen 3 that comes with the Cintiq Pros has a lot more flexibility to it. Like, they have changeable shafts, and you can put weights in them, and you can have a wide one or a short one, a narrow one. This one comes with the narrow pen, and that's fine. I thought this pen was comfortable. It was easy to use. I didn't have any problems with it. It's got 3 buttons. Those buttons are all customizable. I just kept them as they were. The first button is like a left click. The third button was like an eraser toggle, so if I held that down, I would just by default erase any of my ink lines that I was drawing. It worked really well. Without any calibration, this pen was perfectly accurate for me. There's a laminated display here, so there's also no gap between the pen and where the cursor appears below it. Things like the initial activation rate are great. You really have to press hard to get maximum pressure on here, but if you're pressing like super duper light, you're gonna get a super duper light line. Slow angled lines, super smooth, something I'm always looking for. How does it hold pressure around curves at different angles? It works really well. How's the tilt? It's great. This is Wacom's Pro Pen 3. This is their best tech. Now, I do want to talk a bit about the settings because Wacom really is making the most of those touch abilities. Of course, you could pinch and zoom and navigate the interface, do all that fun stuff, but where it gets really fun are all the customizable touch gestures that Wacom lets you create. And if at any point you're like, what were my touch gestures again? Take 5 fingers, swipe down on the screen, and boop, all your settings at your fingertips. One of the nice features here is there's an on-screen shortcut creator. Anybody who has used a touch screen to kind of navigate around Windows or Mac's desktop environment knows that doing fiddly interface things like changing your brush size or undoing things that you have to do all the time when you're drawing can be kind of clunky. Wacom has just built their own palette software in here. Wacom lets you change the color and the size and how many buttons are there and the layout of the button, and you can move it around, and there's just a whole bunch of options. I left mine mine just on the corner of the screen where it'd stay out of the way, but I could easily hit undo whenever I needed to. One of the defaults is a radial menu. You can use 3 fingers, tap on the screen, bring that up. You can create other gestures that can bring up other menus, and you can just get really, really complicated with your workflow here. If you're old school or you just think touch is getting in the way, you can also just completely toggle it off. So the setting apps is going to let you customize the tablet. It's going to let you customize the pen. It's going to let you customize the menus. And there's a whole bunch of how-to videos on setting up all of that. Ooh, poll question is back. How is it pronounced? It is Movink. Cool. Good to know. This also works on Android phones and Android tablets. Now, oftentimes I tell people don't bother taking a drawing tablet and attaching it to Android because most drawing tablets that work with Android don't have touchscreens, yet Android is designed to work with a touchscreen, so it can be very frustrating. This does have a touchscreen, so it works very well when you plug it into an Android phone. The downside here is you are going to also need to plug this into a power outlet while you're doing it. On a computer, it's drawing power from that computer in order to power the tablet. On Android, it's not pulling power from the phone, so you need to plug it into the wall too. I would not get this specifically to use it on Android. Like if Android is your primary device, you're probably better off getting an Android tablet that like you can draw on. I'd suggest Samsung's Galaxy line. Those also have Wacom pens, but as an additional feature to a tablet that you're going to use anyway, it's great. This product really feels like the future of graphics tablets. Super portable, super thin. We've seen a lot of screens that have come out like this that are pen enabled that work just on Windows in recent years. In fact, Asus released a drawing tablet just a few months ago, their Pro Art tablet. Now that tablet was a little bit bigger, it's a little bit more expensive, had a higher resolution, but the big downside to that is that the settings were all monitor settings, so you couldn't calibrate the pen, you couldn't create shortcuts, you couldn't do all of those things that Wacom is doing really well here. For my needs and how I use a drawing tablet, this to me feels like Wacom's Goldilocks product. Their highest end Cintiq Pros are fantastic to draw on, but they've really crept up in price because they're adding these pro features that I think a smaller segment of the audience needs, especially when we're talking about some of their color profiles and things they do there. But what most creatives want is they want Wacom's pen. They want that experience, and you can get that here at a lower price, plus you're getting the added features of portability. I wish the screen was grippier. I wish this was a larger size. Hopefully Wacom does release a larger size of this tablet sometime in the future. I would love to see that, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do it, but it feels like a fantastic direction for them to be heading in. What do you think? Let me know down below in the description. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days.